Hey everyone, super excited for this chat today with Hitachi Vantara on getting the enterprise ready for Gen AI, a topic that Bharti, Senior VP Engineering at Hitachi Vantara, knows a lot about. Bharti, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Evan. It's my pleasure to
Thanks.
be here. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Big fan of your work and the amazing technology you're involved with at Hitachi Vantara. Maybe introduce yourself. And for those who aren't familiar with Hitachi or your division, give us a sketch of what you guys do.
Yeah. So Hitachi Vantara, I think not many people are very aware of it. And some of the problem lies with us because we have changed the names quite a few times in the past. So Hitachi Vantara, our mission is to create data infrastructure for our customers, something that's very reliable and something they can innovate on. And as
Well, you make it,
before,
yeah, go ahead. You make it sound so simple. So I know there's a lot of complexity behind that.
yeah, I think data infrastructure is never a simple thing because, like, if you look at any data center, it's you have multiple vendors, you have multiple machines, you have storage, you have compute, you have network, multiple applications, and they're all very complex. And that's something that not many people get to know, that that's the backbone of the mission critical applications that we all use. So I think we are kind of the people behind the scenes, and I think we want to do everything possible to create infrastructure that's reliable and scalable. Also, people don't need to, once they have that, they don't have to bother about. They can worry about their own applications, their own innovation, their business, and our things should be running in the background seamlessly.
Well, it's a nice vision. I love that. And of course, you've been in the data, big data game for a long time before Gen AI was all the rage and there was so much excitement. Um, so, what do you think it means for a company to be ready for Gen AI? What are the steps to get ready or to shape a strategy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So, as we know, I think just AI has been there for a long time, like for half a decade. And I mean, I even did AI course in my when I went to to university, right? So which is a long time back. However, what changed recently is ChatGPT. The simple, very simple natural language interface exposed the power of AI from from kids to grandparents. So because it became like it was so simple that everyone could use it. And I think I would give credit to a lot of work that has happened in the background and what made it possible. So it did not happen, none of it happened overnight. This has been going for a long time. Three things made it possible. One, the amount of data, the quality of data that we have today. Because many years back, like we did not have enough data, so models will overfit. So I think we have data now. The other thing that really uh, amazes me is the transformers, the architecture that came with it to make it possible. And last but not the least, compute. The amount of compute that we have available today, it's amazing. So all of it made it possible. I also have to say one more thing that is really something worth noticing here is the democratization of AI.
Mm.
So it was not possible a few years back. If you want to do anything with the data, so you needed data scientists, you need very big teams, and now look at, I mean, you still need some of it today, but what is available today, the access of these LMs through APIs, I mean, that's a paradigm shift in itself. And that is something made it possible. Now let's coming back to your question. So that's the kind of background. Coming back to your question, what does it mean by by ready for AI, right? So I think something to look at it. I think with LLMs, one more thing that's very interesting is that these models they could create content, they could create poems, so they can do all of it. So that means that's amazing. However, it's one thing to write poems and essays and creative content, and it's another thing to use them in the enterprise setup. So I think what matters for the enterprises is that you got to think about there's no scope for hallucinations. So you need accuracy. You can say that, oh yeah, maybe I'm 90% sure. No, you got to be 100% sure. And you can't say, hey, go and delete a particular node in a data center. No, and that's not possible, right? So the hallucination, control over hallucination, accuracy, very important. Other aspect, I think, which enterprises need to think about from the beginning is about where your data is coming from. So
Mm,
the quality of data, but also think about lineage, think about traceability right from the onset. You don't want to wait for something to happen and then say, oh, we had no idea. Because as Gen AI gets more and more, becomes more and more mainstream, I think you got to think about that you should be able to trace back the things. So traceability, explainability, lineage, these things are very important. Last but not the least, I would say is think about cost and the carbon footprint. And I'm saying, like, right now, there's so much, no one wants to be left behind. So people just want to
mm,
use it. But there is a cost associated with all of it. And you don't want to solve the problems that are already being solved just for the sake of solving using Gen AI. You want to really use it for where it belongs. Also think about how could you make the best use of the technology without creating too much of footprint. And I think on those lines, I would say, like, does everyone need very big models? Probably
mm.
not. I think I and in our personal experience, I think what is working is we are creating we are taking the generic models, but we are fine tuning them with very domain specific data. And
Mm.
I think that's kind of like that also helps us with better results, with better grounding, and also the amount of effort you need to train them. So that's the kind. Those are some of the things that need to be thought through before you get started on your journey.
Wow, so much to unpack there. Really interesting insights coming from someone who runs large engineering teams. And speaking of teams, you also talk about selecting the right people for Gen AI, which is ironic because we're talking about AI, of course. Think of people in a loop, but as an engineering leader, what do you consider when choosing the team and building that core team for a Gen AI project, and how have you put together those teams?
Yeah, I think that's again a great question. So one thing to keep here in mind is that the field is evolving so fast. So what we see today and we think, oh, that's great. I'm pretty sure that we'll see something totally new coming in terms of the developments in another 9 to 12 months. So I am, of course, I'm looking for people who are extremely good, who are skilled, talented, but also have a great appetite to learn, because it's kind of like this is not something that you just read, you do, and forget. I think this is evolving so fast that you should be able to really upgrade yourself every day, every hour, and then also be creative about the entire changes that are happening. How do you apply them to the problem that you are solving?
Well, great point. Yes, creativity. We can't rely on Gen AI for the creative side of engineering, design, thinking, et cetera. You mentioned guardrails. That's an important topic, especially for a company like Hitachi and its customers. You're talking literally industrial machinery and trains and all kinds of other scenarios. First, why, but also how do you approach guardrails when it comes to data management and
I think,
safety?
yeah, so I think the one of the things that we are trying is that our models are not they're grounded, and if they don't know anything, instead of, because with all these LLMs they can get creative, means they are based on statistics, so they can like compose new response, right? So what we're training our models for is that if they don't know an answer, then they delegate it to the other what we are calling them as companions. So we are building a kind of, think of it as an army of companions that
Mm,
work together with each other. And they are specifically trained on certain things. And if they don't know about something, so instead of kind of creating the answer by themselves, we just ensure that they delegate it to other companions. So that's a complex thing. Means management of all these so many companions is a complex task, but I think that's very important. The other that's on the model side. The other way is also to put the guardrails in place is also a very efficient use of RAG, so retrieval augmented generation. So that's where we are just ensuring that the right information at the right time is fed into producing the results. And I'll give you one simple example. That what happens in case of you, we started with the data center. A lot of things change in the real time, and the data that was useful for you yesterday may not be the most relevant data because things have changed. So what we're doing is that providing that information to the models in the real time as they change to create the most reliable results. The third thing I would say is also, it's very important with all these things so new. Human in the loop is very, very important. It's not possible to trust these results like just deploy them. I think it will take years for them to mature. So my thing is that human in the loop should be there to begin with. And of course, so that these are the three aspects. And of course, kind of going down one step backwards, we are also, as we are using Gen AI, so I'm changing topic, and as we are using Gen AI for our own Gen AI tools for our developers to develop things, we do have clear policies in place about what they can do, what they cannot do.
wow, so many important thoughts there. And you talk about the different models you're creating and using what, many consumers, we just think of ChatGPT, that's the LLM that is out there. And of course, there are many models out there, many open source coming from all directions. What's your approach to selecting the right model for the right job, given what you talked about with data management, finding that model that's really fit for purpose?
Yeah. So right now we're using Llama 2. So we have
Mhm.
taken an open source model. So we have taken an open source model that we are fine tuning using our own data for different purposes. But the model, the generic model is same. But what we are doing is we are fine tuning it for different domains and different problems. So that's what we are doing.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait to see some of the results. And of course, it's fun talking about blue sky projects and starting from a clean sheet of paper, but there's a lot of data infrastructure out there, legacy existing infrastructure, a lot of technical debt in enterprises. How do you go about thinking integrating Gen AI into the existing frameworks that enterprises have, including your own? I mean, Hitachi's a 100-plus-year-old company, so you have a lot of disparate systems, I imagine.
I think that's something, mm, that's something will differentiate people from the people who win in the long run to the
Mm,
ones that would probably give up along their journey. So I would like to think through this because data is the lifeblood of Gen AI. I think there's no absolutely no doubt about it. But in the long run, the companies that will be successful or that will get the maximum benefit is the ones that are able to use their own private data sets to fine tune
mm.
models. Now, to your point, this data is in various forms, various various locations, and even like it multiple locations, various formats. Some might be even like cold data. Who knows? So I think what is important here is how do you get access to this data in a seamless manner without too much of data movement. And that's where I think the secret lies. And that's something that we are working on, creating a semantic data plane where we can access the data irrespective of where it resides and whichever form it is in to use it for Gen AI.
Well, interesting approach. So you have a very long and interesting career. You've seen lots of projects. I'm sure many have gone well, some maybe not well. Uh, what are some of the pitfalls that you've seen, and how can companies avoid those sort of common pitfalls when it comes to, data deployment, use, and AI projects?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So I would start from the very basic thing, and then we'll go to the
Mhm.
data. I think first is the identification of the right use cases. So if your use cases and in this case even it's very different than the past because in this case you it's expensive, you don't want to waste your horsepower for building or reinventing the things that have already been solved. So I think you need to preserve your energy to work on the problems that really need it. So that's part of it. The second thing I would say is it always helps in throughout my career. It has always helped when I build something in partnering with a customer with
Mm.
or a partner to solve a real problem that they are faced with. So I would say working with customers, working with partner, whatever works for you, and identify that unique pain point that you're trying to solve, work towards that. That's second thing. And the third thing is coming to the data point of it, right? Many of the projects in the past, and I've seen like our customers also, they talk all the time. They have so much of data that like
Mm.
they start putting into a data lake and then they realize, oh my gosh, that's not possible, it's just way too expensive. We can't do it. So having the right whatever it is, whatever you decide, having the right access to the right data at the right time without too much of movement will be key to be successful in this space.
Well, it's advice to take on board. And you also have, things like dark data. First of all, what is dark data? Unused data. It exists in mass at scale, kind of like dark matter in the universe. You can't quite see it. what are you doing to tackle that challenge?
Yes, I think that's another problem that many of our customers have got, that they have this data and they have no idea what what exists in that data, and they don't know how many copies of it exist, what is there in the data. And I think that's one thing that we are working on, like not there yet, about if we could just use Gen AI to see what exists in the data. So use of a Gen
Mm.
AI to really figure out what exists in the data. We're not there yet, but that's one of the problems in coming months we are trying to untackle is, can we use this technology to figure out the amount of data that exists where customers don't know how many copies, what exists in the data, and we use Gen AI for that.
Oh, really, really interesting. So your work gets embedded in so many interesting places, from Internet of Things networks to data center projects to cloud storage management solutions, digital health. I mean, security. You do so much. Any particular applications that really intrigue you and excite you? I know you have a lot of work in the IoT, for example, in sensor networks for air quality. I mean, so much. What kind of gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, I think for me, technology is there to solve the real problem in
Mm,
the world. So, what to answer your question, what gets me out of the bed is something, if you're solving a problem in a way that makes the life of your customers really easy. So
mm,
something that where you're able to create, make it really simple, or provide them the insight that they were looking for and they never had access to. So creating an extraordinary customer experience, that drives me. And whether it was IoT, whether it was mobile, whether it was cloud, or uh, air purification, or Gen AI, I think that's what I am always focused on. How can we create an exceptional experience to solve the complex problems in a very, very simple manner?
oh, wonderful. Yes, tech for good is always an amazing thing. You're quite a role model, I think, for women in tech, from the IIT, the MIT of India, to Java developer, to your current leadership role. Are we getting enough women in tech, and what else can be done, do you think, as an industry to make our industry more diverse and open?
Yeah. Are we getting enough? Probably not. Do
Okay,
we need
honesty is
more?
good.
Do we need more? Absolutely, we do need more. Um, I would say, and what really concerns me is that there are not that many people, that many women in the technical roles. So
Yes.
even if they get started, and even my own stories like that, they get started in the technical side, and then they move into
Mm.
management. So I think things are getting better, but we definitely need more women in the core technical space. And I think what I totally believe in is creating a strong pipeline of women, enabling them to move forward, and also giving them an environment where they can succeed. So and that's so crucial. How do you kind of encourage them? So that encouragement and supporting environment is very, very essential. And I mean, so I've seen that problem at IBM. I see here we don't really have that many women. So the creating the right pipeline right from the beginning is so important. And we as Hitachi are really, really focused on it.
Well, wonderful notion. And yeah, the future is all about data and AI. And so, yes, we need that for humanity. Well, thank you so much for sharing just a little peek into your amazing work and the vision at Hitachi. What are you looking forward to over the next few weeks, months? Do you have any events or trips coming up? I know you've been pretty busy this spring so far.
Yeah, I do have many of them coming up. So I'm just going to London next week.
Hmm.
After that, I do have a couple of roundtables on Gen AI coming up soon, and we also have a visit coming up to Capitol Hill again, end of the month.
Wow. Well, we'll look forward to your posts and blogs on LinkedIn around that. And thanks so much for joining, sharing your vision and the important work that Hitachi does globally. Really interesting. And thanks everyone for watching. Follow Bharti on social. She puts out some great content. Thanks so much, Bharti. Nice to chat.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Evan. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.